It's kind of funny when you think about it, how a single, tiny piece of technology can be the one thing holding back a whole revolution. It's happened before. The early internet? It was this amazing, chaotic Wild West of information, but it couldn't really take off, not until one crucial layer was added. Today, we're going to talk about how Web3 is at that exact same crossroads, and how one project is stepping up to be the solution. So just look at this. On the left, you've got the early web's protocol, HTTP. It was incredible, but totally exposed. Anyone could just snoop on your data. It wasn't until HTTPS came along, adding that all-important S for secure, that things really changed. All of a sudden, you could trust the web. You could put in your credit card details, you could send private messages. That trust, that one little letter, unlocked e-commerce, online banking, basically the entire modern internet we use every day.
All right, so what's all this got to do with Web3? Well, it turns out blockchains today have the same fundamental problem. And the crazy part is, it's often sold as a feature. We're talking about the fact that blockchains are just way too public. For years, we've heard that radical transparency is a core benefit. But what if it's actually a critical flaw holding back mainstream adoption? Think about it. By default, every single thing you do on chain is out there for the entire world to see. Every payment, every trade, every single vote. This isn't just a privacy thing. It's a fundamental barrier that stops blockchains from being used for most real-world stuff. No business is going to put their payroll on chain if everyone can see it. And you probably don't want your landlord analyzing every purchase you make. This total exposure is a massive roadblock. And this transparency, it creates this nasty hidden tax on users called maximal extractable value, or MEV. So, put simply, because your transactions are broadcast publicly before they're finalized, these malicious bots can see what you're trying to do, and then they use that information to jump in line and make a profit at your expense. We're talking billions of dollars being siphoned away from regular users. It's a direct and really costly side effect of this so-called radical transparency.
Let me show you a perfect example of this. It's called a sandwich attack, and it's one of the most common ways users get exploited. So here's how it works. Step 1. An attacker's bot spots your pending buy transaction in the public queue. Step 2. The bot immediately buys that same asset right before you do, which artificially drives the price up. Step 3. Your trade finally goes through, but you're paying that new, worse price. And then the bot instantly sells, locking in a totally risk-free profit. You literally just got sandwiched, and you paid more than you should have, all because your intention was public.
For a long time, the only solutions to this privacy problem were, well, they were clunky. They forced you into these isolated ecosystems, which kind of goes against the whole interoperable dream of Web3. But now, a new playbook is emerging, a much smarter, more elegant way to do this. So on the left, you've got the old way of doing things, these monolithic privacy chains. Think of projects like Monero or Zcash. They definitely work, but they create these walled gardens. They split up all the money and activity, and they force you to leave all your favorite apps behind. But on the right, that's the new approach, modular encryption layers. These are composable, they're pluggable. Instead of making you move to a new island, they bring the privacy directly to you, to where the developers and the money already are. And leading this charge, this modular revolution, is a project that's designed from the ground up to be the encryption layer for the entire Web3 ecosystem, and it's called Fairblock. Now, Fairblock isn't just another app. It's pure infrastructure. You can think of it as a decentralized cryptographic computer, or even better, like a coprocessor. Like how your computer has a graphics card just for handling visuals? Well, Fairblock is an encryption coprocessor, but for any blockchain that wants to plug into it. And this brings us right back to that big idea we started with. The vision is captured perfectly by the co-founder, Payman Momeni, who said, it's like HTTPS for the internet of the future. And that's the mission, right there. To be that missing trust and privacy layer that Web3 so desperately needs to finally go mainstream. And this just shows you what that modular approach looks like in practice. See, Fairblock isn't asking you to come to its own little island. No way. It's a service that brings plug-and-play privacy to the biggest players in the game. Ethereum, Layer 2s like Arbitrum and Base, all the way to Cosmos and Solana. It meets developers and users exactly where they are. Okay, so how does this magic actually work? The core technology behind Fairblock is really powerful, but the idea is actually pretty simple to grasp. It's all about giving you programmable privacy, encryption on your terms. The secret sauce is something called conditional decryption. What this means is you get to encrypt your transaction before it ever becomes public. and you can set specific rules for when it's allowed to be decrypted and actually executed. For example, you could say, don't decrypt this trade until 10 minutes from now, or only execute this if the price hits this target, or don't reveal these votes until the election is officially over. Your intention stays completely private until the exact moment it's safe to be revealed. So let's walk through the flow. It's a really straightforward 4-step process. First, you encrypt your transaction right there in your wallet and set your conditions. Second, that encrypted blob gets sent to the chain, but it's completely unreadable to anyone. Third, the blockchain confirms that your conditions have been met. And finally, step 4, Fairblock's decentralized network of validators, called the fairy ring, works together to generate the decryption key. Only then is your transaction executed. It's simple, it's secure, and it's completely shielded from those prying eyes. Now, under the hood, Fairblock is using some seriously advanced stuff. They call it a multimodal cryptographic toolkit, and this is so important. Think of it like a master craftsman's workshop. Instead of trying to use one big hammer for every single job, Fairblock has this whole suite of specialized cutting-edge tools, and it's smart enough to pick the right tool for the right job every time. That means you always get the best combination of security and performance. So, what does all this tech actually unlock? That's the real question, right? Because when you add a fundamental privacy layer to Web3, you're not just hiding a few transactions. You're enabling entirely new kinds of applications. You're creating what Fairblock calls incorruptible markets and machines. This technology opens up a brand new design space for something called CAPS, which stands for Confidential Applications. These are protocols and systems that were just literally impossible to build in a world of radical transparency. Let's run through a few examples of what this looks like. Okay, first up, protected trading. Remember those sandwich attacks we talked about? Well, by encrypting orders, you can finally wipe them out. This basically creates an on-chain version of the dark pools that big players use in traditional finance. It lets large trades happen without sending shockwaves through the market, which is better for everyone. Next up, private governance. Right now in DAOs, since all votes are public, it can lead to people getting pressured or influenced. But with encrypted votes, everyone can vote their conscience, and the results are only revealed once the poll has closed. This makes the whole process fair and credibly neutral. And looking even further ahead, you've got confidential AI. This makes it possible for autonomous AI agents to operate on-chain and work with sensitive private data without ever having to expose it to the public. This is a critical building block for a future where AI and blockchain can work together safely. And here's a fun one, on-chain gaming. Just imagine trying to play a game of poker where everyone at the table can see your hand. It just wouldn't work, right? Well, encryption allows for that crucial information to stay hidden, which means you can finally have true skill-based games with fair competition on the blockchain. When you zoom out, all of these pieces build towards one massive goal: creating trustworthy and compliant rails for open finance. It's about getting rid of the leaks and the manipulation to build a system that is secure, fair, and safe enough for institutions and, just as importantly, everyday people to finally trust. You know, when HTTPS first came out, its creators could have never imagined it would lead to things like streaming services or social media. It just unlocked a wave of innovation. And programmable on-chain privacy is poised to do the exact same thing. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a new foundation. So the real question isn't if this will change everything, but how. When your on-chain activity is finally private and finally secure, what will you build?